Stefanski didn't want him to play. It seems as if he didn't care for him, go through so many circumstances just to get on the field.
If I can ask a super quick follow-up on that, why wouldn't you, just to see if it does anything to the offense, give him an opportunity to go in there and play?
Yeah, obviously my focus is where we are right now, Mary Kay. That's not my focus.
TJ Houshmandzadeh just dropped an absolute bombshell that has the entire NFL world talking. The former Browns wide receiver and current analyst has come forward with some seriously damaging allegations about now former head coach Kevin Stefanski and his treatment of quarterback Shedeur Sanders. And folks, what TJ is revealing is nothing short of shocking. We're talking about a potential coach systematically sabotaging a young quarterback's career. And the implications of this are massive for the Cleveland Browns organization. TJ Houshmandzadeh didn't mince words when he started exposing what was really going on behind closed doors in Cleveland. According to TJ, Kevin Stefanski never wanted Shedeur Sanders to play, period. This wasn't about performance. This wasn't about protecting a young quarterback. This was personal. TJ revealed that Stefanski had it out for Shedeur from day one, and everything that happened throughout the season was a direct result of this deep-seated animosity. Think about that for a second. We're talking about a head coach who supposedly has the best interests of his team at heart, actively working against one of his own players.
So he gets drafted to a team that doesn't have an answer at quarterback. And now you're not giving me reps? I played a long time. I've never seen that.
The truth that TJ uncovered is absolutely damning. Stefanski never wanted Shedeur Sanders to even step on the field. From the moment Shedeur arrived in Cleveland, there was resistance, there was pushback, and there was a clear agenda to keep him on the sidelines. TJ made it crystal clear that this wasn't just speculation or reading between the lines. This was the reality of what was happening inside that Browns facility, and it was one of the primary reasons why Shedeur Sanders was suffering off the field. Imagine being a young quarterback trying to prove yourself in the NFL, and your own head coach is actively working against you. That's the situation Shedeur found himself in, and it's absolutely unacceptable. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. TJ Houshmandzadeh declared that this toxic situation, this hatred that Stefanski harbored toward Shedeur Sanders, was one of the main reasons why Coach Stefanski has now been fired from the Browns. The organization finally saw what many people on the outside had been saying for months. They finally recognized that Stefanski's personal vendettas were hurting the team, destroying potential, and creating a culture of dysfunction that no successful franchise can tolerate. The writing was on the wall, and the Browns had no choice but to make a change. TJ went on to elaborate about just how ridiculous the situation had become. The Browns had no legitimate quarterback solution. Their quarterback room was a mess. They had no clear starter, no clear direction, and yet even in that desperate situation, Stefanski still did not want Shedeur Sanders to play. Let that sink in. When a team is struggling at the most important position in all of sports, when they're searching desperately for answers, a head coach should be willing to explore every option, give every player a chance, and do whatever it takes to win football games. But not Kevin Stefanski. His demeanor, his actions, his words, everything made it abundantly clear that Shedeur was never going to be his quarterback, no matter what the circumstances were.
Kevin Stefanski full of shit.
Oh, wow.
He full of shit. You talk about instilling confidence into your players. How do you think that makes Shedeur feel?
All of the plans that Stefanski made, all of the decisions he enacted, all of the roster moves and practice schedules, they all pointed to one undeniable truth. Kevin Stefanski hated Shedeur Sanders. This wasn't about football. This wasn't about winning. This was personal, and it was destroying a young man's career before it even had a chance to begin. The evidence was overwhelming, and TJ Houshmandzadeh wasn't afraid to call it out for exactly what it was. But here's the thing. This wasn't just TJ speaking out after the fact, trying to pile on after Stefanski got fired. Houshmandzadeh was clear in his ideas even back during the season as well. He saw what was happening in real time and wasn't afraid to speak truth to power. TJ Houshmandzadeh didn't hold back when criticizing Stefanski's treatment of Shedeur Sanders, even when Stefanski still had his job and all the power. That takes courage, and it shows you that TJ genuinely cared about what was happening to Shedeur and the Browns organization.
I don't know who the backup is?
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. Either Kevin Stefanski thinks Shedeur Sanders is Magic City parking lot, straight ass,
Jeez.
or
Jeez.
he just don't like him.
Yeah.
TJ pointed out that in all his time with the team, in all his years of playing professional football and being around the NFL, he had never seen a coach show such a lack of interest in putting a player in a position to succeed. Think about how damaging that statement is. We're not talking about a coach who tried different strategies and they didn't work out. We're not talking about a difference of opinion on how to develop a quarterback. We're talking about a head coach who actively refused to give a player the tools, the opportunities, and the support necessary to even have a chance at success. TJ suggested that Stefanski's approach to Shedeur appeared more personal than professional, with favoritism clearly visible to anyone paying attention. There were other players getting opportunities they didn't deserve, other quarterbacks getting reps that should have gone to Shedeur, and through it all, the favoritism was blatant and undeniable. TJ warned at the time that if this perception continued, the calls for Stefanski's job would only grow louder, and the Browns' leadership may eventually have no choice but to make a change. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. TJ called it perfectly, and now we're living in the aftermath of a coaching change that was as predictable as it was necessary. Houshmandzadeh's words make complete sense when you look back at everything that transpired. Stefanski was clearly biased in his treatment of Shedeur Sanders. The evidence is overwhelming. He lied every time he wanted to sideline Shedeur, making up excuses about development, about timing, about scheme fit, when the reality was much simpler and much more sinister. He didn't give Shedeur first-team reps, even when the starting quarterback was struggling and the offense was sputtering. How do you justify that? How do you explain refusing to give your young quarterback a legitimate chance to compete and prove himself? Stefanski was trying to avoid Shedeur at every turn, and all of the things which happened throughout the season are interconnected. When you start connecting the dots, when you look at the pattern of behavior, when you examine the decisions made week after week, it becomes crystal clear that Shedeur was wronged by Stefanski. This young man's development was stunted, his confidence was attacked, and his career was jeopardized all because of one coach's personal feelings. At some moments, Stefanski even avoided taking Shedeur's name in press conferences and team meetings. That's how deep this went. It wasn't just about not playing him, it was about pretending he didn't even exist. Imagine being Shedeur Sanders in that environment. The psychological toll, the professional damage, the impact on confidence and development, it's all incalculable. And when we look at Shedeur not doing well this season, you know who was responsible for that. When a young quarterback struggles, you have to look at the environment he's in, the coaching he's receiving, the support system around him. Shedeur never had a chance under Stefanski, and that's not speculation anymore. That's confirmed by people who were there and saw it firsthand. With former players calling Stefanski out publicly, and with Stefanski now removed from his position, it is now up to the franchise to make things right. The Browns organization needs to make sure to bring Shedeur back fully trained and at his best. They need to repair the damage that was done, rebuild his confidence, and give him the legitimate opportunity he deserves. But for that to happen, they need to have a coach, but definitely not someone like Kevin Stefanski. The Cleveland Browns are at a crossroads. They can either learn from this disaster and build something better, or they can repeat the same mistakes with different people. The choice is theirs, but one thing is certain. The truth is finally out there, and there's no going back.